So I came out here this week and yeah, things are actually starting to take off. And I got a few plants doing way better than expected. Like these right here. This bed has just taken off. And it's not just this. There's actually quite a bit out here that's doing really well. So let me take you around and show you what's thriving. I feel like this is the point in the season where you can really tell what's going to do well. So the first side of our yard, our grow bags, this is our zucchini or squash and melon patch. Melons are just now starting to come up. I do have some bags with just beans in them. The beans are just now starting to flower to set some fruit. Got a couple beans right there. But I know they're not going to keep producing during our heat, so I think I'm going to come out and either plant some pumpkins in these bags, especially since I had some with no germination. But I'm excited to see what melons we get. The first garden bed is a hodgepodge of all things chaotic. I have several tomato plants in here, some chamomile still hanging on, plenty of, oh, this is bolting cilantro, but plenty of volunteer 8-foot cosmos. I really will need to come and thin this. I just haven't been able to bring myself to do it yet, honestly. Garlic chives doing great. And what's really exciting is that my sunset runner beans are just now flowering. And I wasn't sure if we were going to beat the heat. Hopefully we will. I also had planted in this bed some Tahitian melon seeds, and it looks like they're coming up as well, as best they can. It's a fight for survival. Here we have my gorgeous, I think this was the seashell blend cosmos. Absolutely gorgeous. I really wanted some more pink in the yard this year, so that's exciting. More tomatoes, obviously. Tomato haven. And some parsley that, well, I don't know what it's doing. It was going to seed and then it all turned brown without ever actually flowering. And the next thing I know, I've got what looks like maybe some healthy parsley. So I don't know what that's doing. But because of that, I did come in and replant out some more peppers and some more flowers to eventually fill in that part. Now this bed is one of my favorites. First of all, I absolutely adore the apple blossom snapdragons. And I did cut some of that back so that this poor pepper had a shot at life. Here we have the Mucho Nacho variety of jalapeno, which you can see is doing quite well. Already got about 5 jalapenos on that. We have another Cosmo just about to open. I'm not sure which one this is. I'll know when it opens. And of course, more tomatoes. But my favorite part of this bed is the chaotic volunteer cucumbers in here. These are just really taking off. And then I also planted some purple pole beans, which are just now starting to flower, just in time for our hummingbirds. And as always, remember to feed your hummingbirds. They're thirsty. And you can see shaded out down here, these are the cucumbers I planted intentionally, but the volunteers are taking it for the win here. In this back corner bed is mainly tomatoes. This bed gets the most shade. I also have some celery, which does okay with our shade, especially with the heat that we get. And I do have a sad daisy still trying to survive in this heat. Several volunteer pepper plants. I did not plant these. I don't know what they are. I did plant this eggplant, which finally looks like it's growing. For the longest time, it just looked really pitiful. But the tomatoes are definitely holding their own back here and producing, considering how little sunlight they actually get. So row B here, this front bed, again, mainly tomatoes. I have had to replace a lot due to mite issues. So some of them obviously are bigger than others. But on this side, we have more sunset runner beans. Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, I do think so. And another Tahitian melon. Now this one looks much bigger than the one over here. And maybe that's just because this guy's getting a lot more sun. He's kind of shading out my recently planted out pepper. French marigold, volunteer zinnia. And inside we have some eggplants that are hanging on. Now my second bed in row B has me a little perplexed. You can see we do have tomatoes setting fruit, lots of flowers. I have bell peppers coming on, some more cosmos that haven't quite opened yet. We also have some cayennes. That's where we are with this. This is cayennes. My sad news is that this zinnia actually had multiple parts that I had to come out and pull up because I came out this morning and they were laid over and they look like they rotted from the stem out. I have never had that happen with zinnias before. So if you have any idea of what would have caused that, let me know. You can see one part of the stalk is still living, but I would be lying if I said I had faith. I don't know what would have caused that. And then we do have some nasturtiums. Now I don't know if you can tell, but the third bed is taller, at least the tomatoes are, than my other beds. And that's because this bed was planted out about 2 weeks before everybody else. This was my tester bed. Basically was testing nighttime temperatures to make sure everything could handle it. And so far, so good. We have tons of fruit being set. Cannot complain. We've got everything from cayennes to bell peppers and even another jalapeno in there. Plus my oregano, which is finally seeing the light of day. And this side of the trellis is more purple pole beans going up and over. And then I do have some more cucumbers we planted that are finally getting some sun because we came out this past weekend and pruned a lot of the foliage back. Now this last bed has me worried. Right now I have a few tomatoes in there, some scragglers, because again, you can see here, I still have one mite-eaten tomato plant that needs to come out, quite honestly. But I had replaced some. The issue I'm running into is this tomato plant, as well as this pepper plant, are both demonstrating signs of wilt. And I didn't suspect this bed of having bacterial wilt, but if it turns out that it does, and some kind of way got contaminated, I'm going to lose everything in this bed. And since we're planning to be moving in the next 6 to 8 months, there would be no point in me trying to clean this and fix this. We would just have to break it down, and I would have to move to some other option in this area to continue to grow. Blueberries, doing quite well. Our older, more established blueberries, which looks like we'll be able to start harvesting really soon. Now coming over to my side yard, this area is still very much chaos. We really didn't get a chance to get back here and prune. Now, this yard is made up of some leftover grow bags that I really just have some zinnias in. I do have one straggling tomato down there. And then my self-watering buckets. Tomatoes do have some sugarcane. These were some tomatoes that were hit with mites that I managed to treat, but I'm not really sure it's going to make it. It doesn't really look like it's setting any fruit right now. the rest of these all are. And with the self-watering buckets, I really stuck to peppers this time to see if that helps with the rat problems we deal with sometimes. In true chaos garden fashion, the beds are quite the jungle. We have everything from garlic still growing in here to volunteer eggplants from my compost in place, some peppers finally setting fruit. I think this is a weed. Yep, it's a weed. And then, of course, tomatoes. Lots and lots of tomatoes. Now, this bed, you can see some of my tomatoes in the back look like they're struggling a little bit. Again, this browning is kind of indicative of the mite situation we had. The top growth looks healthy, so I'm leaving it in for now. And then we have some other, this, I don't remember what flower this was. We started this from seed in the fall, and it's been blooming really ever since. More chamomile. And then these are some Carolina, no, I'm sorry. These are the better bells that are finally setting some fruit. And I'm excited because I don't typically get a lot of bell pepper production in my beds. And the snapdragons, this is the bizarre mix. I am going to have to come cut these back too because they are trying to shade out pretty much everything else I got going on. And then back here, I do still have some garlic as well as some more zinnias that I planted. Now, this bed is kind of a disaster. You can see still dealing with mite. Some tomatoes are doing fine. I've got some, I believe that's marigold in the middle there. More chamomile, ton of garlic, but the real star is the volunteer cucumbers. Again, compost in place. I even got volunteer cucumbers on the ground, coming out of the rocks, and I'm just leaving them. And if you look in there, I've got my first cucumber that I'll be harvesting really soon. And in fact, I know you can see there's more than one. I think I counted at least 3. Let me know if you spot any more. And that is the kind of more of an English cucumber variety. They tend to grow long and skinnier, which they also have less seeds, and I like that in my cucumbers. Heading towards the patio, we have 1 intentionally planted tomato followed by 2 volunteers that I just left. My pots that I still have not figured out what I'm going to do with. My row of trees back there. Of course, whole bunch of seedlings, as with everything. And then I had planted out marigold in here. That didn't make it. So I put some carnations in there. I'm not sure they're going to make it. This bucket may have wilt, and that may have been what took it out. Some more tomatoes and zinnias. This is an ornamental curry. And this is my self-wicking pots over here. We have pepper and, of course, another tomato. Our hydroponic system, we have a ton of different peppers. These are just now really starting to take off because it's getting warmer. And we are getting a late cool front. So I'll be interested to see how these do. But there is no denying that the wall of tomatoes is upon us. Even our peppers, these peppers were started before these. They were set out as kind of an experiment, again, testing the nighttime temperatures, and they are doing great. I can't complain. They are doing wonderful. They are ahead, obviously, since they've been in the system longer than the ones in the middle. So they are actually starting to set fruit. That's the giant Marconi back there. And then there's some bells in here as well. So I look forward to a very healthy pepper harvest. So now that we're at this point in the season, I want to just touch on, for my own records as well, which varieties are really just showing up and showing out at this point. First up, new to me, is banana legs. Banana legs has been productive in both my garden bed and hydroponically. It's just doing things I never have seen before. And quite honestly, I didn't think this level of production was even possible in this area of my yard because of the lack of sunlight. But it's producing heavily, both hydroponically and in the beds. So if it keeps up this pace, this will have a permanent home in my yard. Hopefully it tastes good, but at the end of the day, sometimes you still need a great producer, because I could make any tomato taste good in spaghetti sauce. Sometimes it really is all about quantity for me. The next one, not new to me, is garden paste. This performed last year exceptionally in my beds. It is again performing exceptionally in my beds, but I'm also testing it hydroponically and it is doing phenomenal. So garden paste will always have a spot in my yard. And another one that is new to me, that is a cherry variety, is the Cherry Falls. Now, this one is throwing up a ton of fruit. In fact, it's my only cherry variety in either my beds or hydroponically that is producing right now. And in fact, I've already harvested some of the fruit off of here. So it is an early producer and it is very, very, very prolific. So those three varieties so far are the ones that are showing up and showing out the most. And I can't wait to see how much of a harvest we get out of this yard. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see just how much we end up harvesting this year, I encourage you to subscribe. And until next time, stay blessed.